Greetings, YouTube. The Doctor is in. Dr. Urias Papers here, coming at you with another commentary on Dungeons and Dragons. And a couple of days ago, we got a new article that came out, which is a preview of the new Backgrounds and Origins Feats that are going to be featured in the 2024 Player's Handbook, which I think there are copies that might be coming out around Gen Con, but I think they're more or less going to be available in September. So, again, we've got a kind of an introductory paragraph. This article, again, is written by our friend Riley Silverman. And we've got this intro paragraph, which tells us, about some changes they've made, about what they're thinking about stepping backward, so on and so forth. We've got a little hyperlink section here on going through everything. And then, of course, we have our obligatory in gray box advertisement for the bundle that they want you to save $60 on when you buy all 3 books for your digital pre-order. And remember, Hasbro announced they are all in for digital, and that if you don't know where that is, then check out a couple CNBC articles and probably go to their website. So we've got our again lackadaisical art here. A lot of these art pictures, I'm going to say, do not convey any kind of high fantasy, sword and sorcery, old school Dungeons and Dragons vibe whatsoever at all. I would say a good majority of these art pieces just show people doing normal things every day, which is not really what this game is about. It's about adventuring, but I digress. So, your character's background is the collection of characteristics that they picked up during their formative years of their life. These are experiences and occupations. So there are 5 different aspects to the backgrounds, which are a bit different than what they were in 5e. So if you look at any one of these, let's just pick pirate, for instance. They came with a description. Most likely you got some skill proficiencies. Some of them came with some languages. You got some tool proficiencies. There was equipment that you could come with, and then they had a feature that was like a role-playing thing. Like this one was bad reputation, and then it had some characteristics that it came with. So personality trait, ideal, bond, flaw, tables that you could look into. And now we're changing things up a bit on the mechanic behind the background. So it contains 5 aspects. We're getting a bump to ability scores here. So those are no longer in race. And yes, I'm going to say that word, even though they changed it to species. Ability score increases are no longer tied to your race. And then we've got skill proficiencies, which isn't really anything that's new. That's a carryover. We've got tool proficiencies. That's nothing new. That's a carryover. Starting equipment, that's not new. That's also a carryover. And then we've got an origin feat. Now, this was something that was introduced back in, where is it? It was introduced back in Dragonlance, Shadow of the Dragon Queen. Here it is right here in character creation. And you got feats. You got an automatic feat. But for this one, you either got, I believe it was toughness or one other feat, or you got a feat that was associated with your background. So now there's a whole host of origin feats that you can pick in addition to your background itself. So they use the Wayfarer as an example, shares some DNA. I'm not kind of feeling that vibe with that kind of analogy. So shares characteristics with the urchin background, but also represents a larger swath of characters who have fallen through the cracks of urban society. So they give the example of Artful Dodger or Fagin. If you are not familiar with those, there are a couple of big musicals and stories about that with Oliver Twist. And also with Edgin from Honor Amongst Thieves, or a couple people from Baldur's Gate 3. So now they go into the meat of the thing, and the meat of the thing is here. You get your ability score bump, so each background has a list of 3 ability scores to choose from, and it's basically what it used to be with race. So if you chose... This has gone through an evolution in the rules since the new Dungeons and Dragons has come out in 5th edition in 2014. It started out, there were, if you took a human, or say you took an elf, then you got a bump to one very specific thing. So if we look at that and the way it was, we go to races here, and they're still called races on D&D Beyond. So if we go to elf, you got a bump to dexterity specifically. And then you picked a sub-race, and that sub-race gave you a bump to a different ability score. So if you were a drow, you got a bump to charisma. If you were a ladrin was a newer one, but you got a bump to charisma as well. If you were a high elf, you got a bump to intelligence. So then they changed it to where you got a +2 and a +1, and you could put them anywhere. That came with Tasha's. Now they have separated that from race, and they have connected it to your background. So now they kept you get a bump, you get a 2 and a 1 bump, or you can get 3 + 1 bonuses, but you get to choose now. So each background has a list of 3 ability scores to choose from. So it's less of a choice. It's still 3, and you can increase one by 2 and another by 1, or you can increase all 3 by 1. So they give the Wayfarer has dexterity, wisdom, and charisma. So again, this is different than this, where it was very much tied to the race and it was not super flexible, to different than Tasha's, which had the customizing your origin with ability score, which means that you could do anything. And now it's tied to backgrounds. And it's not as flexible as Tasha's, but it's more flexible than the original 2014 rules. So it does give you something. So people will be taking very specific backgrounds to complement their classes, is my guess, if they are going to be doing the power gaming thing. Because why would you take the Wayfarer, if you're going to power game, why would you take the Wayfarer if you're a wizard? Just saying, you don't get your bump to intelligence, so you would be taking a background that features intelligence or has intelligence included in it. Wayfarer probably would be good for a rogue. You could get your bump to dexterity and charisma if you're that kind of rogue, or a wisdom if you're kind of doing the perception thing. So secondly, you get an origin feat. So each background has a specific origin feat that best represents a talent your character developed while living in this portion of their life. The Wayfarer background grants you the lucky feat, and man, did they change that one. We're going to talk about that. So that is specifically tied to your background, but it's a free feat. We didn't get these before, so it's a free feat. You get your skill proficiencies. Your background grants you proficiencies in 2 specified skills. That's pretty standard at carryover from 5e, and then for Wayfarer, it's insight and stealth. Tool proficiencies. You gain proficiency in a specific tool that would have been commonly used. Your background, Wayfarer, is Thieves' Tools. Again, that's a carryover from the 2014 5e. And then equipment. This equipment is what your character starts with, or you can choose to opt out and start with 50 gold pieces to spend on equipment of your choice. I hope we're getting more, because starting characters got a random amount, but that random amount was quite a bit. So if we go in here and we go to backgrounds, equipment, optional rule. So there was a table here, and a lot of these classes started with way more than 50 gold pieces. So I'm hoping that's not what we're starting with. So the Wayfarer begins with 2 daggers, a set of Thieves' Tools, a gaming set, bedroll, 2 pouches, and a traveler's cloak, and 16 gold pieces. So no armor. So you got 16 gold pieces to spend. I'm hoping what's going to end up happening is that you're going to get gold from your background, and then you're going to get gold from your class. So if we look at like fighter, and go in here. The original fighter had equipment that they could start with, or in addition to the equipment granted by their background. So hopefully they're still combining all of those. Now, there are 16 backgrounds in the 2024 Player's Handbook. I do want to point one thing out also. This says Player's Handbook 2014 now, by the way. Okay, so 16 backgrounds in the 2024 Player's Handbook. In the original list, if we go up here to Game Rules and Backgrounds, there are 96 backgrounds here. Way more than 16. Way more. Now, this does include backgrounds from a lot of different books that have come out. You know, you see Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus, Tomb of Annihilation, Spelljammer, Mythic Odysseys of Theros. There's a bunch in here from Eberron. There's a bunch in here from the Ghost of Saltmarsh, Wild Beyond the Witchlight. So all these books introduced a couple of new backgrounds. So right now we're going to start with 16, and they are pretty standard ones that we found in the 2014 Player's Handbook that ranges from Alkalite all the way down to Soldier, all the way down to Wayfarer. So if you look at a Soldier, they just give the description. They don't really tell you what they get. So you called the open water soldier, where you can hardly remember a time when you didn't wield a weapon. You were well versed in the ways of battle and war to protect the realm, and you've had the muscle memory to prove it. So they don't really say, what ability scores, what the origin feat, what skills, what tool proficiency and equipment the soldiers get. And they only told us the Wayfarer. They got a little blurb here about using old backgrounds. So if you can't find anything up here, then don't despair. The scribe has scrawled some handy tips for converting a background from an older book to work with your new characters using the 2024. So this is part of that conversion. So we use an older background, simply select the ability scores you want to add your 3 points to. So adjusting 1 by 2 and another by another, or 3 by 1. So again, if I found one in another book that I liked, why would I play these? Just saying. Now they talk about origin feats. So here's the list of origin feats, but each one of these backgrounds is tied to one. So there are different types of feats in the 2024 Player's Handbook. We've got origin feats, general feats, fighting style feats, and epic boons. General feats become available at level 4 and may carry other prerequisites tied to ability scores or specific armor training. Fighting styles are bestowed by features in your class, and epic boons are available to be chosen by characters at level 19. So origin feats are similar to the features each background got. They're kind of similar. They're not really, because the features were very different, but with mechanics that give them more utility in your adventurer's day-to-day life. Okay, so we've got things like alert, which you add your proficiency bonus to initiative rolls. You can also swap your initiative with a willing ally. That has changed. Because if we go here to feats and we look up alert gave you a +5 to initiative. You could not be surprised, and other creatures do not gain advantage on attack rolls against you as a result of being unseen. So that is very different than this, and I would say that it is nerfed. Now we go down to lucky, because I did mention this one. After finishing a long rest, you have a number of luck points equal to your proficiency bonus. This starts out less than what you got back in 2014, because in 2014 you started with three luck points. So you have 3 luck points. Whenever you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can spend 1 luck point to roll an additional d20 You can choose to spend 1 of your luck points after you roll the die, but before the outcome is chosen. And you can also spend 1 when an attack roll is made against you to change it, and then you regain these at the end of a long rest. This one is after a long rest. You have a number of lucky points equal to your proficiency bonus, but remember that proficiency bonus is eventually going to be 4 or 5. Which means you're going to have a lot of these. You can expend 1 when you make a D20 test to give yourself advantage. Period. So you could have advantage on an attack roll. You could have an advantage on a saving throw. You could have advantage on a skill check. Now that's different than this because this is not advantage. So when you make an attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, you can spend 1 luck die to roll an additional 20. You can choose to spend 1 of the luck points after the die roll is made, but before the outcome. You choose which of the 20s. So essentially, it still is advantage. Because with advantage, you get the highest one. You can expend 1 to impose disadvantage when a creature rolls a d20 to attack you. So this is essentially the same. They changed the language a little bit. The big change, which is, in my opinion, a buff, is this proficiency bonus one. Eventually, this is going to become 4 or 5 per long rest. And then we got Magic Initiative, Musician, Savage Attacker. Once per turn, when you hit a target with a weapon attack, you can re-roll the damage dice and use either roll against a target. That's a buff, in my opinion. Skilled Tavern Brawler, tough. Your hit point maximum increases by twice your character level. Therefore, your hit point maximum increases by 2 each time you level up. So, and then they have a little blurb about choosing your background for your character and your first furthest steps from home. So, again, we get some more art here. We've seen this picture before. They kind of released this picture before. So it's again, it doesn't really convey to me that feel of high fantasy, heroic Dungeons and Dragons. This one definitely doesn't, and as does most of the other ones. All in all, I'm going to say I don't necessarily like that they changed tying ability increases from the race to backgrounds. Maybe they could have the race give a bonus in one and the background a bonus in another. That reflects what your essentially genetics are, and then another one reflects essentially what your background, your experience in life comes to. But I digress. All right, that is what I got for everybody today. I appreciate everybody tuning in, and I will catch everybody later.